Okay. And okay. So the third mimer, what we're going to do together is the third mimer from Toshin Chof Aleph. This is based on the Eis Yud Aleph from the original mimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Right, as we know, the Frierdiker Rebbe left a mimer, Bosi Legani, that was going to be printed for 4 different occasions. There was a whole Hemshech from Yud Shvat, which was the Frierdiker Rebbe's grandmother's yard site. Then Yud Gimel Shvat, which was the Frierdiker Rebbe's mother's yard site. Then Purim, and then Beis Nissen, which is the Rebbe Rashab's yard site. So there was a whole Hemshech of Bosi Legani was already prepared and it's going to be printed out and distributed on the occasion of Yud Shvat. And as we know, Yud Shvat, which was the day the first part of the Maamar was going to be given out, that's when the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away. And the Rebbe saw it as the tzavos, if it were, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the legacy of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the message of the Frierdiker Rebbe to the Chassidim. And that is what the Rebbe learned every year from Tovshin Yud Aleph. Every year the Rebbe learned one ois of this Maamar. And that was repeated twice throughout the Rebbe's Nesiyos. And then we are studying now the 4th cycle of this series of Maamarim. So every year it's one ois. Just lahoyer that this year, since the Rebbe said the first Maamar Tovshin Yud Aleph, we are now Pei Aleph. That's 70 years from the first Maamar of the Rebbe. So it's certainly a milestone. So in any event, there was 2 years when the Rebbe said the Maamar, Tovshin Chof Aleph, Tovshin Mem Aleph. And Tovshin Chof Aleph, I wasn't there and I don't remember the details. Maybe if Rabbi Khan is there, could tell us how Shabbos was. But that Shabbos, there were 3 Maamarim. There was one Maamar after Kabbalah Shabbos, one Maamar by the Fabregan, Shabbos Fabregan, one Maamar Motzoi Shabbos. So this is the 3rd Maamar that the Rebbe said that Shabbos, which is Motzoi Shabbos, Parshas B'Shalach Yud Aleph Shvat Tovshin Chof Aleph. And as we said before, it's based mostly on the chapter 11 of the Maamar Bosi Legani. Bosi Legani Achesi Kala, so the Maamar starts with the word Bosi Legani Achesi Kala. Came to my garden, my sister, my Kala is my medrash. She says the medrash Legani Legnuni. To my garden, really, it's Gnuni. Gnuni is a special place, special garden. That's the place where Hashem was mostly or mainly at the beginning. What does that mean? Because originally, before the Chet Etz Hadas, the Shechina was mostly found here, down here on earth. That's where the main revelation of the Eibishter was. The Chet Hadas, through the sin of the Etz Hadas, V'chatoim Shlachar, and the Averis that came later, Cain and Hevel and so on, Shenimnu b'Medrash, the Medrash counts them all. So the Shechina left, departed from down here to above. In other words, first from earth until the first heaven. That is, through the Chet Hadas, which in a way was the worst stage because Shechina left earth and it became a spiritual revelation. It wasn't something that on earth we're able to fill anymore. And then eventually, through every Aveda, it went from one heaven to the next heaven, and all the way up to, after 7 Avedas, to the 7th heaven. In other words, Shechina was completely disconnected from the human experience. Then came the Aveda of reversing our process, bring the Eibishter back into this world as a tangible reality, something that is part of our reality over here, down here on earth. And who started that? Maskim Avram, started with Avram. Then you had the Avis, Yitzchak Yaakov, and then you had all the other Shvatim. Until came Moshe, and Moshe with the 7th generation. So just like it took 7 generations to send the Shekhinah all the way from earth all the way to the 7th heaven, to reverse the process from the 7th heaven down here to earth, then you again had 7 tzaddikim. All 7th have a special, the cherished, there's something special about them. So Moshe was the 7th. And Moshe was able to kind of seal the deal and bring the Shekhinah back here on earth. And that was, we find in Maimorim, that was through the Matan Torah and the Mishkan, with both events where the Shekhinah came back here on earth. Shezoni Bosi Legani, that's the idea of Bosi Legani, that came into Magana, Legnuni, Shezeu Malkum Sheboy Shekhinah Lechatchila. So the Eibishter says, I'm coming to my place where the Mishkan, my revelation was here Lechatchila, which was, again, originally in Gan Eden before the first sin. So not just where there was a Shekhinah, the revelation of the Shekhinah, the Iker Shekhinah was there. Iker Shekhinah Tachtim also, because the greatest revelation of the Shekhinah was done here on earth. So the Filik explains in the in the Prakim that come before. In other words, we are this year learning 11th Prakim, but you have 10 Prakim that Rebbe is going to summarize. And during those Prakim, the Frierdiker Rebbe says the following: is the whole reason why the Eibishter created the world, which is the Eibishter wanted to have a dwelling down here on earth. What does that mean? It should be a dira. A dira means a dwelling, not a palace, not an office, which there you play a role. A dira means we're home. You could, kick off your shoes and you feel at home. You don't have to play any role. You don't have to impress anybody, so to speak. This is where your atzmos, your essence is there. So the dira, the here earth should be a revelation, a dira home for the Iker Shekhinah, for the Eibishter. When does that happen? When does that start? It starts from the commandment, they will make me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell among them. And that's the pasuk. In other words, the Eibishter will coming back here, down here on earth, amongst the people. And again, we going back to the word shochanti. What does that mean, shochanti? I will dwell. Shochanti, I will be there, my own essence, not my role. This is where I'm going to hang my hat, or that's going to be my office. My essence will be there, and an essence is not something that you could split into different parts. I will be there, the Iker Shekhinah. And that happens again with Vasul Mikdash. There's a Gamba Misrael, and that's something that's happened through the Aved of every Jew. As what says the pasuk, and the pasuk hints at the fact that it's by every Jew, shochanti b'seicham, and here the stress is b'seicham among them, and we bring what it's brought down from Chassidus. We're talking about, we call it Chazal, but from the Shalom and other Al-Shich, that b'seicham ne'emar ela b'seicham. It doesn't say I will dwell in it, meaning in the Mishkan, rather b'seicham among them. And that is something that we see, not just the fact that the Shekhinah will dwell here. In other words, the essence of Hashem will be here on earth by everybody. That's not just the fact that we're making a Mikdash in general concept, but even the details of the Mikdash, the component of the Mishkan, a component of the Mikdash, they themselves are indicative of that idea of the Shekhinah down here, the Aved of the Eden. What is start? Mishkan starts from the structure. The beams, the wood that build the Mishkan, we call them kroshim, those beams. That's the Torah says. So the Pasuk says you have to make those kroshim, those beams, for the Mishkan. Cedar wood. Them standing. What do we see from there? Keresh is Lashon Sheker. The word Keresh, which is the word that we use for those beams, comes from it's made out of the same letters as Sheker. Sheker is a lie. Shemei al Sheker Elam, which is a hint, is a reference to the lie of this world. What does that mean, the lie of this world? The world gives off a false impression. The world gives the impression that it exists. Now, it's not just the Eibishter. There's the Eibishter, and there's a computer in front of me, and there's a chair I'm sitting on, and there's a table or I'm using to put my computer. These are all realities. But that's a sheker, that's a lie. Because in Alavada, really there's nothing but the Eibishter. So we have this idea, we have this false impression that the world exists. And that's often we bring the idea of Eilam, it comes from Lashon Helam. There's a concealment. And anything in the world, most things in the world, not everything in the world, comes from Klippa. As Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that most things in this world are Klippa Nega. but it's a klippa. So we think of it as part of an apple, and money. There's nothing bad about them, but it's a klippa. And klippa in the sense that it covers the reality, or it gives off this lie that I exist. And our aveda here is lahafech sheker elam. So we have to turn that around. This lie of the world, the fact that the world gives off the impression that it does exist, and it has an existence, which means an existence separate from Hashem. We don't see, I don't think of myself as the extension of the Eibishter. I don't think the computer is the Eibishter or the chair I'm sitting on. Because all those things, this lie of the world, we have to be able to see through that. So we have to turn those things into giving them the right place in our life and the right place in existence, which is to be a tool for godliness. Just like those beams, which really we took the sheker, that's what the Rebbe is saying, we take the sheker and we make from the sheker a keresh. In other words, we have things of this world, they appear to be disconnected from the Eibishter. Our job and responsibility and mission is to turn that around and to show that all those things that seem to be independent and don't seem to be connected to the Eibishter are really vehicle tools to reveal the godly. How does that? When we make the dwelling and resting place for Hashem, or I'm thinking about the word that says from the Kotzke, where's the Eibishter present? Wherever we let him. So when we let the Eibishter into those beams, we let the Eibishter into our life, let the Eibishter into our computer, whatever it is, then that gives the right place to the tools of our life and to our existence, that they are there to bring out the Elokus, Ein Muvad. So that's the work. That's the idea of the Mishkan. So the Mishkan was a physical structure. But we have the Aveda also. That mission, that empowerment that we have, but that's essentially this commandment that we have to make the Mishkan. And we have the result. Hashem says, I will dwell among them. Among every Jew, as we said before. So that means there is our own Mishkan where Hashem will dwell. And it's the same idea, that we turn things that are in our comprehension, our experience, things that exist independently from the Eibishter, and we turn that around, and our life becomes a vehicle, and our life with everything that it contains, a keli, a tool and a vehicle for Hashem. Shalei, what do we have to do? We have to make those karashim, those beams, that structure, build that structure for the Eibishter, build a resting place for the Eibishter. And though that resting place, that structure was made out of atzah shittim. Shemehem nasu kasher mishkan, out of which we made those beams for the Mishkan. What's the idea of the word of shittim? So in Hebrew, which we usually translate as cedar wood, but the word shittim in Hebrew is meloshin shtus, come from this idea of shtus. Shtus means folly, craziness, things which are not connected to seichel. As Chazal tell us, we bring that the person doesn't do avera, lam ken nichnas beruach shtus. You have that crazy insanity, things, we do something that don't make sense. Now, yesh shtus lo mazeh. We do things without thinking in things connected to klippa. Maamar Azal, ein odam ever averam ken nichnas beruach shtus. We have averas that we do without thinking. And sometimes we do stupid things because we didn't think. We say something without thinking, or we do something without thinking. That's one way. And our job is to turn that around. Instead of doing things without thinking in Klippa, to do things without thinking in Kedusha. Here's one example that we have. There's a Gemara that tells us that shtus was something that was good for this older person. It was a person that was dancing by chasanas, and he was using shtusim, which is also like those branches. He was taking branches and juggling with branches. So there were two pshatim what it was. Either the fact that he was acting crazy at the chasana was a good thing, or the fact that he was juggling with those sticks, those branches, that's something that was good. People looked at it as he's making himself look silly. He's acting silly at weddings. But when he passed away, they saw that there was a pillar of fire that stood between his aron, his casket, and everybody else. And people expressed at the Levaya that what he was doing was something that was really a positive thing, even though he was acting crazy, perhaps silly, which was not a respectable thing for someone of his position. It was a Rosh Hashiva. Nonetheless, it was a good thing. So that acting crazy, the chasna, dancing, and making him samech chasna kala was perhaps something that was not necessarily for his covet. That was not something that reason would have dictated, but he did it. And that's an Aveda which is higher than reason. Things are not reasonable, things are not logical. He wasn't giving a shir, he wasn't teaching a Maamar, teaching an Inyan and Nigla. He was acting crazy at the wedding. So that, when we act crazy in Kedusha things, so then we're making that Mishkan for the Eibishter. Right? Rabbi Shapir often says a story that somebody went to the Rebbetzin, and the Rebbetzin told this person is going to be Fabrengen tonight. Surprise Fabrengen. So he didn't know of anything. He went to Maskiris, he asked Rabbi Groner, whoever was in Maskiris, nobody knew about it. Whoever he asked, nobody knew about the Fabrengen. The Rebbe went to the oil, came back from the oil, and he came back, he told people it's going to be tonight, it's going to be a Fabrengen. And of course, those remember, there was line at the payphones, everybody's trying to reach people to come to the Fabrengen, and it was a whole tumult. Later, when that person had a chance again to go back to the Rebbetzin, he asked the Rebbetzin, obviously the Rebbe had planned that, because he told you, so why didn't you ask people in advance? So it should be more Mesudar. Why wait till the last minute? So the Rebbetzin told him that her husband likes when there's excitement. Because, that's the Rebbe was enabling us to have this idea of Shtuz de Kedusha and to be able to act a little crazy and turn around the schedule and find ways to contact the family and the people to tell them it's going to be a Fabrengen. That's, the Rebbe helping us being able to reach that level, and we don't just do things in orderly fashion, but sometimes we have to act a little l'mayla mitamidas. Now, we have another idea in the Mishkan. One thing we said, we talk about the beams, that we're making out of sheker, we're making keresh, and shittim is turning around the shtus. Then you have another inyan in the Mishkan. There's a ba'avedis inyan avedis hakorbanis, yet korbanis. Essentially, the Beis Hamikdash was a place, according to the Rambam, that was designated and designed for the purpose of bringing korbanis. It's just like an Aveda of korbanis, the way it is, in simple words. What do we do? Take an animal, and fats and blood are burnt upon the Mizbeach. Then you have Eish Yerim Elamayla. Then you had a fire that would come down from heaven. Also, there was a mitzvah that people had to bring a fire. The Hediyat means the regular people and the Kohanim were working. So that idea also exists in Avedis Sodom. In general, that's the idea of korbanis. So what's the idea of korbanis? That we bring to the Eibishter all our kirches. Until we really go to the highest point. That the secret of the korban, the idea of what the korban is all about, reaches all the way up down to the secret of the Ein Sof, to what the Ein Sof is all about. So really, a korban is just like an animal. We took the life of the animal, the blood, the fats, where the animal grew off, and what the life of the animal, and we brought it up to the Eibishter. Same thing is the idea of a korban in our Aveda. That we are taking who we are as a person, what makes us, keeps us going, our life, our blood, if so to speak, our passion, things that we care about, and we bring them up to the Eibishter, and that goes all the way up to the highest level. Say that Aveda who? What's the Aveda about korbanis? It says in the Pasuk. If a person will bring from you a korban to Hashem, Hainu, that is, Shahar korban lahavayim mikem. The korban to Hashem is mikem. Now the Rebbe explains that in the Torah and Vayikra, that the pasuk says, Adam Yaakov, if a person will bring mikem from you, korban Hashem. Not that if a person will bring a korban from you, one of you will bring a korban, but the korban has to come from you. as the pasuk itself continues, mina behima, mina bokar, and so on. We talk about the different types of nefesh abamis that exist, and we have to bring that, sacrifice those elements, those parts of us, bring it to the Eibishter. So that's the idea of bringing the korban. In other words, bring our nefesh abamis essentially. Our nefesh abamis is truly our ego, what we think of as ourself. When we refer to nefesh, when we refer to our needs, we refer to nefesh abamis. Meaning, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm not in a good mood, I am in a good mood. These are all experiences that come from the nefesh abamis. So we identify more closely to the nefesh abamis. So those things, which is essentially a good part of my identity, I have to bring up to the Eibishter. And there are different types of nefesh abamis. Some are more bullish than others, some more refined than others. And that part, wherever our ego essentially, we have to bring to the Eibishter. Now, when we bring that closer, there's a fire that comes from above, and then there's a fire that people have to bring. And that is the Aveda of the Nefesh Elikis, and Aveda of the Nefesh Abamis. And the Aveda of Nefesh Abamis, which means we have to draw an inspiration. That comes from the top. That's learning Torah, coming to Verbringen, that's learning Chassidus, all those things that we are tapping on to something that is above us. Torah in particular, anything that has connected to Torah, Torah comes from the top to the bottom. The Eibush comes from the Eibishter, and it comes to us. So that's the fire that comes from above, which essentially is the idea of the Nefesh Elokis also. It's also given to us from above. And we have to have the fire that comes from the bottom, from us, from the regular humans, or the regular human within us, which is the Nefesh Abamis. We have to make an effort. So now we have to tap onto what's available to us. That's Nefesh Elokis, so that's Milamayla. And we have to work with the Nefesh Abamis to be able to do what we have to do and to work on that. Now, truth is, in a way, the Aveda of Nefesh Abamis is the essential thing. The whole theme of Bosi Legani is the idea of Dir B'Tachtenim. So the work is not just to draw from the Nefesh Elokis, but mostly to work with the Nefesh Abamis. Same thing it was in the Beis Hamikdash. The fire that was mostly there on a regular basis was the fire that the Kohanim brought. The fire that came the first day when they dedicated the Beis Hamikdash, and after that, the Kohanim, kept the fire going. So that's how it's also connected to the Sikh. Actually, we're learning this week in the Chelek Yud. Yaakov wanted to reveal the cats to his children, but then the Shechina left. So Chelek Yud, the Rebbe doesn't talk too much about them. I think in Chelek Chafei, Lamed, Chelek Chof, the Rebbe says that really, in short, Yaakov wanted to give that inspiration to the children. So Mashiach is coming. It's going to be Yitzis Mitzrayim, because that was the date at the time. The original plan was they're going to go out the time Yitzis Mitzrayim, and that's Mashiach. They're going straight to Eretz Yisrael, Moshe, and that's the end of that's the final Geula. But he said, figure if I give them inspiration, just like Hashem called the Golos from 400 to 200, 210. So if they really work hard, they get inspired, the Golos will be even shorter than that, and they'll go out of Mitzrayim. And the Eibishter made the Shechina disappear. In other words, the Eibishter said, I don't want the help from above. It has to come from Aveda from below. So between the inspiration that comes from above and the work that comes with us, the most important one and the things that we do, not just inspiration. But it's hard to do it, if not impossible, if we don't learn Torah, if we don't got inspiration. So we have to seek the inspiration. It doesn't necessarily come to us. We have to look for it and make sure that we implement that inspiration to our life. So continuing with Simon Perek City, Yekoidish. Now, finishing the 10th Perek, which was the Perek before the year that we're going to learning. So now we're coming close to the summary of the Maamar up until Beis Yud Aleph. So the Frierdiker concludes Perek City. City says Yekoidish. The 10th is holy. That's the pasuk. Talks about the Maisa Behemoth, but it's also used in terms of Yud Shvat in particular, which is the Yud Shvat is the 10th of the month. How do we accomplish all of those? Essentially, how do we bring the Lakush into our world? How we transform the world into a place that is the dwelling for Hashem? And that's done al Dei Zeh Yisrael Tzivas Havayim. It's done obviously through the Yidden, and the Yidden being Tzivas Hashem. Now we'll see that Tzava has different meanings. So being Tzivas Hashem, the army of Hashem, we translate that usually as the army of Hashem, but there are more meanings to Tzava than just the army. So the Frierdiker explains that. Mevair, Shebetzava Yishnan Gimel Inyonim. The word Tzava has three things, three ideas, or three meanings. Tzava Meloshan Zman. One is time. K'mei, Halei Tzva Lenesh Aloretz. There's a certain amount of time that a person has on earth. So Tzava means time. Then you have Tzava Meloshan Tzivoyin, Tzivyonim Nivro, the idea of colors or a blend of colors, different use of colors. Like when the Tzivyonim Nivro, they were created with different colors. And then Tzava Meloshan Chayil, and then Tzava is the army, as the more common translation over here. So what's the idea of those three terms in our Aveda? Shaveda the Kimater Mitzvah. Aveda of Torah mitzvah is in the Ba Bayom. It has to be in a way of Ba Bayom. Ba Bayom is a post that we use the Bat Avram, and he's explaining Chassidus that is, it has to be Bizman u'Makom Lamata. It has to be within time and space. Time and space are connected down here. In other words, not just Aveda Ruchnis. We have to bring Aveda into reality, our life. Not just be the Jew in the heart, but Jew. Take from our time for learning, take from our time for davening. Things have to take time if they have to be real and meaningful. One example of that is a story with the Maggid and a friend of his. The Maggid had a friend when they were younger, before the Maggid became a Talmid Chassid of Baal Shem Tov, when he was younger. So he had a friend, and they were Chavrus, they were learning together. Then over the years, they got separated. And years later, that friend heard that the Maggid became a very famous person. So he decided to come and visit his old friend, who now is a Rebbe. So he came to where the Maggid was. There was Mezrich, Shanipoli, wherever the Maggid was. And he came at the time the Maggid was davening. So he figured, okay, I'll wait. How long could davening take? An hour and a half? So he's waiting, and the Maggid is davening for hours upon hours. So, he's already, the longer he waits, the longer he says, okay, that's another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes. So he's waiting, and after many hours of davening, the Maggid finishes, and he comes over to him, Shalom Aleichem, Alchem Shalom, and the Hag, and they catch on the news, and the shmuz, and after a while, this person has the opportunity to ask a question. He says, Rabbi, tell me something. I know when we were younger, we both learned Kisva Arizal. And I'm sure when you daven with all the kavanas of the Arizal, no question about that. But what takes you so long? I also daven with all the kavanas of the Arizal. It doesn't take me as long. So in good Jewish fashion, the Maggid didn't answer him. He answered him with a question. He said, tell me what you do for Parnasa. So he answers the Maggid. He said, for Parnasa, what I do is like this. I have a store in our town. Really, my wife manages the store all year. But twice a year, I go to Leipzig, and that's where I go shopping for all the merchandise. So I go there, and I come back, and the rest of the year, she handles the store. There's an emergency, I'm there, but otherwise, she's there, she manages the store. And I learn Torah all day. Except for those 2 times a year when I go to Leipzig, it's about a week to go, a week to come back. I spend about a week there. So about 3 weeks, twice a year, that's the time I invest in my store. The rest of the time I'm learning. Maggid says, listen, how long have you been doing that? So we're doing that for 20 years. Maggid says, okay, now let me ask you something. By now, after 20 years of going to Leipzig from your town, you're familiar with the roads, you're familiar with the way to Leipzig, you know everybody in Leipzig, you know the inn where you stay every time, you know the suppliers that you buy from. Why schlep there every time? Stay in your office, stay in your room, and imagine the whole trip in your head. How you're traveling, you probably know every bump in the road, and the trees and the sight as you get close to Leipzig, you could already see in the horizon the skyline, and you could imagine the noises of Leipzig, and then the best medrash and where the inn where you're staying. Imagine the whole thing in your head. How you handle with the providers, the suppliers, and all those things, the people you meet over there. And I'm sure in a day or two you could do the whole thing in your mind with all the details. Why do you have to go schlep? Well, you could be thinking about all of that. This person tells the Maggid, "Bear, it's very nice, but it's a good thing you became a rabbi. So if I want to make money, I got to be there. I can't just think about it. If I want to gain, I got to be there. I got to travel, and that takes time. I can't just think the whole thing." So the Maggid told him that's the same thing with davening. You could think about it with davening. You could think you're getting to this madrega, that madrega. As you go, Baruch Shamar is go from Asiya to Yitzira, and Krishma is Bria, Shmanes is Atziris. You could think all those things. But if you want to be there, it takes time. You can't just think, now I'm Bria, now I'm in Atzilis. It's you got to bring that. So in some way, the Rebbe says that the Aveda has to take time. Bizman Mokim Lamata. You can't just think about it and that goes fast. You have to invest in sense and give it the time that for Avodas Hashem. It's not just something that is instant. It's not something just think about it, but it has to be Bizman Mokim Lamata also. So that's Pirush Aleph B'Tzava. That's the first meaning of Tzava, Miloshen Zman. Our Avodas Hashem has to be something that we invest time in it. Something about chinuch, the word in Hayom Yom from the Rebbe Rashab, every day half hour and to think about chinuch and so on. K'mekain, tzorich liyez ba'aveda, aveda yin is kalulus. Then there's another thing that has to be in our aveda. In our aveda, it has to be this idea of iskalulus, inclusion. We spoke about earlier that tzava has all the different colors that come together, a blend of different colors. So this idea of blending. What does that mean, blending? Which is a close inyan of V'ahavta L'Recha Kamecha. In general, it's the idea of V'ahavta L'Recha Kamecha, blending with the rest of the Jewish nation, the rest of the people. Just a chliyas kedem atfilo, something that has to be before davening. Shehi aschol l'chol inyan ha'Torah mitzvos. That's the beginning of Torah mitzvos. That's davening and before davening. Shlachein evinim kedem atfilo. That's what we say before davening. Arein mekabel olah mitzvos aseh V'ahavta L'Recha Kamecha. I took upon myself the mitzvah of loving a fellow Jew like yourself. What does that mean? You include yourself with the community. You don't think of yourself as a separate entity. See if you think of yourself as part of a community, not just separate. And therefore, whatever you do has to involve the community. You're going to think in that direction. What can I do to help people around? As the Rebbe often said, when two chassidim meet together, they have to discuss how can we help a third Jew? How are we going to help the community? Or, there's so many stories that I've always thought about, the community. Or, recently we spoke a lot about Dr. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. But when he first went to see the Rebbe, and he was telling about what's going on in Cambridge, and the Rebbe asked him, okay, what are you doing for the Jewish students? Because that was the Rebbe's vision of everything. How you think about the community? What do you think about the community? So, Zero Pirush Beis Batzova. And that is the second thought, or second idea in Tzova. Veloshen Tzivion Verotzon V'Yefi. The idea of blend, will, beauty. Kitachlis HaYefi, what is beauty? When you blend few colors together. When you have a completely white canvas, it's not a beautiful painting. Completely blue, that's not beautiful. What makes a painting beautiful, for instance, is when you have all different colors that blend together harmoniously. So that's the second idea. So the first one is we have to invest in time. And the second is we have to be, I'm going to use the word community oriented. In other words, we can't just think of ourselves in the vacuum, but we have to be able to think about others and worry about others. Then, what is the Aveda? So the Aveda has to take time. We didn't say what it is. The Aveda, you should be community oriented. What is it? Third of Inyan is that we do this idea of Anshe Chayil, soldiers, which the Rebbe talks about, in the Frierdiker Rebbe, and then the Rebbe picks it up, the idea of Kabbalah soul. That is the Aveda. The Aveda of Kabbalah means to do what we have to do. That's the Aveda. That's the army. In the army, as the Rebbe often said, in particular when he spoke about Tzivos Hashem, what's of most importance is following orders. Don't take your own, your own ideas in your hand and do what you think is right, what you think makes sense. So once a story from Reuven Dunin, he brought an example. What's Kabbalah soul and what's our role as soldiers? He says there was once a bus driver in Israel. He came to work the first day. And the first day, they give him his route. He says, your route is to go to that street, start on the bottom of the street, stop every block, till all the way up to all the way at the end of the street, and then we come back. That's your job. Okay. The first day, everything goes well, no problem. Second day of this driver's job, work, position over there, when he's working, about a half hour after the shift starts, the main station started receiving phone calls. Where's the bus? What's going on? We're waiting for the bus. The bus is not coming. It's been already a half hour. It's been already an hour. We're waiting for the bus. There's no bus. What's going on? And it's impossible to track this person. Obviously, there was no cell phones. So, they don't know where the guy disappeared. At the end of the day, comes back to the depot. He's all proud of himself. He's all happy, all excited. And his boss sees him and he's fuming and screaming at him. And he says, he tells the boss, why are you screaming at him? I made so much money for the company. Look, and he brings the whole, his cash register is full of money. He said, why are you upset at me? He says, what do you mean? What did you do? So, well, I was driving on the first day. I saw there was hardly any customers, but the street, the one block away, the main avenue, there was a lot of people. So instead of driving in that small street when there's nobody, I drove another street where there's a lot of people going there. There's so many more customers. It would make more sense. That's the way he looked at it. And the boss says, that's beautiful. But right now we have a route, and some routes make money, some routes don't make money. Your job is to drive that route, not to decide where you're going to go and it's going to make more money. You have to follow the orders because we have a system. And if you're going to start messing the system around, then the company suffers. So that's the idea of tzava, Kabbalah soul. That's maybe we think we should invest over here, we do something over there, but ultimately our job is to follow the orders that we have from the headquarters. And when we do that, then we're able to fulfill the kavanah what the Eibishter wants, which to have a dir of tachtein. Now we're getting to Perek Yud Aleph, which is the Perek that we're learning for this year. Up until now was a summary of the Maamar thus far. So now the Frierdiker Rebbe continues the Perek Yud Aleph, quotes the Rebbe, to explain in a deeper way the fact that you are called Tzivos Hashem, the army of Hashem. The Shem Tzvok is Hashem Kodesh. Really, the Shem Tzvok is the name of Hashem, is a holy name. That's from the 7 names one is not allowed to erase. Shem's and is Gali the Nevim, and that is a name that was revealed through the Nevim. The B'Torah of Niska Shem Tzavokis. In Chumash, we don't find that as a name of the Eibishter. The only time we find that Niska Rak Tzivos Havai, we're talking about Tzivos Havai, the army of Hashem, but not as the name of the Eibishter. And Tzivos Hashem is not the Eibishter. We're talking about the Yidden. So, what is this name? Up to here is the words of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So, we need to understand. Seems to be that there's a contradiction. Because originally the Frierdiker Rebbe explained that when the Yidden are called Tzivos Hashem, which is something that is mentioned in Chumash. And that Shaykh L'Shem Tzivokis Hashem Kodesh. Frierdiker himself makes the connection between Tzivos Hashem and the name Tzivokis, which is a holy name. And right after that, the Frierdiker adds that in the Chumash and Torah we don't find the name Tzivokis. This Gali the Nevim, something that was revealed by the Nevim. So which one is it? The Friedrich makes the connection that we're called Sivas Hashem because it's connected to Shem Tzvokis. And then Friedrich says in the Chumash where there's no connection to Shem Tzvokis. So that's one thing. Then the Friedrich continues in the Maimer, Bir Ma'al Shem Tzvokis, to explain what is the mile of that name that we have in Tzvokis. Because as we know, the Eibush has many names. Elokim, Kel, Shindalit Yud, and so on. Havayim. Is a Medrash Rabbah, it says in the Medrash, in Shmois, that Moshe wanted to ask the Eibishter, what is your name? Moshe asked, with the whole story when the Eibishter by the burning bush, Hashem tells Moshe, you have to go, and so on. And Moshe says, the Eden are going to ask me, what's your name? What do I tell them? So the Medrash says, Hashem says, you want to know my name? I don't have a name. My name depends on what I'm doing, on my role. When I fight with the Rishoim, like Pare, so the name that I'm going to use is Tzvokis, which is a name connected to army, to fighting. In that Maamar Azal, which is Medrash. I'm called according to my action. The way I act, according to that and the role I'm playing, that's the name I'm given. There too we find two opposite things. On one hand, since I'm called according to the role I'm playing and to what I'm doing, that's something that changes. Sometimes the Eibusher uses one name, sometimes the Eibusher is called by a different name. On the other end, but in every name, there is the I called by that name, which is what the Medrash says. What is the Medrash? We're going to go back over here. I am called, the name that I'm given depends on the role I'm playing. But it's the I, the essence of Hashem, that is being called by that name. So when we give a name, whether it's Elokim, Shin Dalet Yud, Tzvokes, Yud Kevavke, there's the I of the Eibush inside of that name. Even though the name changes. The name is only superficial, it's only a name tag, it's only a role, so to speak. Sometimes like by a person. We are a parent, we are a child, we're a husband, we're a boss, we're an employer, we're an employee. So we have different titles, but there's an I inside of it. So the Eibush says, there's an I in there, and the tag that I'm going to be wearing, the hat I'm wearing, that changes. What is the idea of that name? When we give it a name, tag, it's for the benefit of the people. I want to have a connection to this person. The idea of the name tag or the title that we give is so I know how to address a certain person. But ultimately, what is important is not the title necessarily, not the tag that we give, not the name, but it's the person I want to have a connection to. So in every name, that is the role of the name. The role of a name is some sort of a handle, so to speak, a way of communication, a way to communicate between me and the person I want to talk to. And therefore, I have a word to call that person. We're going to call that person Ta or Shver or Zaidi. I want to know if I want to call that person, what do I do? So the explanation is as follows. We see when it comes to the name down here on earth. The name of a person is not something connected to the essence of the person. When a person is for himself, is by himself, we don't need a name. You don't call yourself when you talk to yourself, you're thinking, you don't necessarily use your name. When you have somebody else that wants to have a connection with you, so then he needs your name. There's a nifton l'kere. When that person uses your name, you turn around and you react to that person. So obviously the idea of a name is something that is very distant than the person, if so to speak, that we're called by name. A name is just a tool, a way to get to that person's attention, to get to that person, right? Well, sometimes I think one example I'm thinking, when you get your son-in-laws or daughters-in-law, now how are they going to call you? Are they calling you Ta or Ma or Shver or Shviger? And if they don't have a word, then it becomes complicated. How are they going to address you? So that's just a tool, a mechanic, instead of saying, hey, you, or to, flap the fingers. So then they have a way to call you, to get your attention. But that's certainly not you as a person. You as a person, the connection is there. A name is a way to get to that person. So that's on one hand. On one hand, a name is completely superficial. It's absolutely not more than a tool to be able to connect to that person. Instead of saying, hey, you have a more dignified way to relate to the person. That's on one hand. On the other hand, explain out like in Chassidus. Use the Gama Divrei Shalom is also based on the Shalom. What was the great mile about Adam Rishon? It says about him, that whatever name Adam would give to a person, or to, not a person, to an animal, that would be the life of the animal. What does that mean? How do we explain that? Adam Rishon saw the chayes that is above, the vitality, the source life, the life source of that entity, Shenimsha Beis Hashem, that is drawn into the letters of the name of that particular being. Right? So, for instance, the example is mentioned in Chazal, is one of the examples is Sus. Sus comes from the idea of sas, joy, it's always springing, always joyful. So it's Adam understood that the letters that give chayes to Sus, to a horse, is Samach Vav Samach. And therefore he gave it the name. So he was able to connect, not just give names. Give names anybody could do. Scientists still today are giving names to all kinds of things. But we discover a new species, we discover a new thing, we create a new matter or create a new tool, and we give names. But these are named our conventions. We all agree on the different names. But to be able to see what is really the life source of a particular being, that was the matter of Adam Rishon. That he saw the name, he saw what is the life source of that being. That was the reason why we call a letter, or letters, Asius, or Ais, come to the word of Asa. Asa in Aramaic means to come, meaning that's the way that makes that the Chayes comes. When it says Hashem, so when Adam gave a name, he was really thinking of the letters that make up the Chayes code, so to speak, of the Chayes of that particular being. And that became the name. That letters that make up the spiritual code that brings it to an existence, a particular animal or entity. Nimsa. So really now what do we have? That the existence of something is coded in the letters of the name. The fact that Sus is Samach Vav Samach is not just a name, that is what brings into existence. That is its existence, its entity. Is explained Sharichud Vaimun. The name that we give to something, the Hebrew name that we give to something. Is the tool to that particular vitality that is now enclosed into the letters of that name. And every letter has a different kind of energy. And we have all the 22 letters of the Aleph base, you have all the different possible combination of energies that are necessary to bring into existence a particular entity. The name is not just a tag that we said before. The name is this line, the pipeline, so to speak, the line that will bring the chayes from above into the existence of this entity. There's a gam shem adalamat. Same thing is true for a person. Shall Yoda Nasas discussions neshama will go through the name of a person. We have the connection with the neshama in the body. In it. Before the neshama comes down at the level of barasa, which is the level of bria. It's hard, and then the level of bria of yitzira. Sorry, the fact, and then the Eibusha blows into a body, which is the ilmasiya. So, but before that, the neshama is called pure. Once it starts going down, it's not as pure. It gets impacted by the outside realities. But neshama starts in Atzilus, Torah. Well, the Ma'ala said, and when you see even before that, the neshama doesn't have a name. Neshama doesn't have a name of a particular person before it comes into the body. But only when the neshama comes and gets connected to a body. We're not just talking about the madregas which are in the body. She's a winyan vata, and the fact of the idea that Hashem blows inside of me. That would say in Elkai Neshama, you blew inside of me. Elagam madrega al niyes be even the high madrega b'chinas yitzata baros the madregas of yitzira brio. Even the madrega of tahira, which is referring to the wall of Atzilus. And that's also the neshama which is somehow connected to me, because we talk about neshama shenasat be, you put in me. That neshama is tahira. It's a level of Atzilus, and then Atabaros, a level of Bria, Tayitzat, a level of Yitzir, and so on. I know. That means we're talking about the Atzilus connected to this particular body. Now the neshama enters the body, and the neshama now connects to a specific body. It has a name, but before that, it doesn't have a name. The neshama does not need a name. A name is not used. I don't know if it doesn't need, but there's no name. The name happens when you connect the neshama to the body. That also explains that's something that we find by Gilgulim, which is an interesting thing. That what? You could have the neshama of a person. That comes into a second person, right? It's a Gilgul. They don't have the same name. They're a different name. Even though we're saying that the name is the name of the neshama. Because the body itself is not a species that matters. So the neshama really, when we give the neshama the name to the person, it's not just a name to the body. We're not giving a name to the 160 pounds or whatever the weight of a person is, and that's not. We're talking about the personality, the entity, the being, which is the neshama. That's what we give a name. So the name is for the neshama. Should have had the same name because the same neshama. For instance, Rashbi, Rashbi was a spark of the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's a Rav Amneinu Sabo, become neshamas. Same thing we said about Rav Amneinu Sabo and other neshamas. Yet, one has the name Moshe, one has the name Shimon, Rabbi Shimon. The idea is because the name is the connection of the neshama with the body. Being that we're talking about a different body, it's not the first body, it's the second body. First body was Moshe, now it's the body of Rabbi Shimon. Therefore, it has a different name because the name is connected to the link between the neshama and the body. As they're moving from there, we understand. When it comes to the body, the chayis of the body comes from the name, that the name connects it with the neshama. Just like we have by all the creatures, the name is the keli for the vitality. We brought the example of the horse, other example. The name is there to connect a particular entity, a particular creation, together with its spiritual source of life. So we have these two opposites. We'll stop over here for today. We have these two opposites by name, that on one hand is completely irrelevant, completely has no importance. It's just a tool to be able to call the person, and you could actually decide just make up a name, or make up a title, make up whatever it is to the person, and you have that tool to communicate. On the other end, we're saying that the name is also the source of life for that particular being. So we're going to have to reconcile those things. Thank you. And Mr. Shem will continue next week at the same time at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes,
Pleasure. Thank you.